got to be honest with you guys, I'm thinking of leaving Madeira. Let me tell you why, where I'm thinking of going, and how close I am, because this isn't clickbait. So these are not going to be pros and cons like I've done in other videos, but they're going to be my personal reasons as to why I'm feeling like this. And whether you're thinking about moving here, I get a lot of messages from people who are thinking about moving here, or you have been here a period of time and you're starting to feel the same way. I think this will help, or it might make sense. But if I could sum up one of the main reasons why I'm thinking this and why I've been feeling this recently, is I'm just bored. I'm becoming bored of the island. And I know that sounds very ungrateful. Look, I'm very aware I live in an amazing place. It's a beautiful island. There's a lot going on. But I think you can split that for me into three things, and two which lead into the third. So the first one is that I'm getting a bit bored of the things to do. And I know I've said this. You have so much going on here. You have all of the festivals, you have the mountains, you have the beach, you can go hiking, you can go climbing, you can do all of these things here on the island. And that's great, but when you've been here, well, 2 years permanently and coming here 7 years, it starts to get a bit samey. There's only so many hikes that you can do before thinking, oh, another hike. And again, I know that sounds, first world problems, but it is the reality of how it is, and it is the reality of how I feel. And I know I have shot myself in the foot by doing so much travel over the last 7 years that my tolerance for being entertained and being fulfilled and satisfied is quite high. It's my problem. This problem may not be a problem for everyone. And I'm not saying I've done everything on the island, and I'm not saying I've seen everything on the island. For instance, here, I've never been in this little spot here. Looking for a place to film, I come across this. It's very nice. I'd love to come and have a picnic here. But the reality is, I am getting a bit bored of the things to do, and that is becoming a bigger problem, and the more and more I think about it. The other side of that, something that is really important to me, is the food. And I am becoming bored of the food, and you do become bored of the food after a while. That's not to say, again, that I don't like the food. I love the local food. It's hearty, it's usually good quality, it's very simple. But it is a little one-dimensional after a while. I mean, it's good if you come here for a week and you get to try it all for the first time. Or if I'm here for a few weeks or a couple of months, I enjoy it. Actually, when I'm away, sometimes I crave it. I crave the salty espetada meat with the smoke on it and the meal frito and the local vegetables and fruits, which are so delicious and so fresh. But after that period, I do really just crave to satisfy my desire for different foods. But the cafe video, for example, I think of cafes in the places I've been to, Vietnam, Bangkok, Thailand, China, Georgia, all of these places, London, they have really cool cafes which specialize in different things. And I wanted to make the cafe hopping video because new cafes are opening. And I came up with a list of 4 unique ones, 4 that weren't doing roughly the same thing. And that's great when you're here for a week, and that's great when you're just, I don't know, you're not trying to find new things and creative things. But for me, I start to get a bit bored of it. I started to get a bit bored of the restaurants that do the same espada, bolo de caco, meal frito. And yes, the restaurants are popping up, but I've said before, it's not quite the same. A Thai restaurant opens, it's not Thai food. The Indian restaurants, I've been to India, it's not Indian food. And now this is a bit of a rant because you can see where my head is going. And I don't mean it like that. I'm just trying to explain how I become bored and how I become frustrated. But as a general piece overall, what that leads into is creative boredom. Now, YouTube is my job, of course. It's my full-time job, so I need to make videos. And I need to make new types of videos. I can't keep making the same thing again. For instance, I can't keep going out and eating espada, the fish, or espetada and saying, oh, this one with this meal frito, it's fried slightly differently. It just gets boring. I have been in a creative rut. Maybe you've seen in the videos since the hiking. I've definitely been in that. I'm not really sure what I want to do or where I want to go with it because I'm finding the creative side hard here. Feel a little bit restricted. And again, maybe that's my problem, but I don't want to be a Madeira YouTuber. You can see that by me going off on my travels. So it has become a bit of a problem, and I thought after the hike it was just some of the highs and then the lows after the hike into the trough. And over time that would dissipate and it would go. And it kind of has, but it hasn't gone, it's changed. And it's just getting to the point where I really need to make a decision. I need to decide either way. Am I going to stay or am I going to go? And therefore, what is my commitment on either side of that? I know there's people out there who, when I start to talk about this to people now, and they say, oh, can't you do 6 months here and 6 months there? Or, oh, you travel anyway, it's okay. But it's not quite as easy as that, because Madeira isn't actually that good of a travel base for the way I like to travel, but also because of the weather and because of the seasonality. But I'll come on to those and explain. In terms of the way I like to travel, it just doesn't seem to work for me. What I would like to do is just go away for the weekend or for a week, you know, to film a mini series and break up the Madeira content. This would be fantastic. But for a lot of destinations, for most destinations that I would like to go to, you have to go via somewhere. So you have to go via Lisbon, or you have to go via London, or you have to go via Paris. You have to go via somewhere, basically. And yes, more and more destinations are becoming available for direct flights, but it's not like living near Heathrow or Gatwick or Lisbon or any of the places that I'm going to come onto that I'm thinking about, because that's one of the big reasons to move. It just doesn't seem to work for me. And what makes that worse is the weather, because if it's windy, you can be delayed or you can be cancelled. And I've had a lot of stressful times where the weather has delayed flights or cancelled flights, and I've nearly missed big opportunities. And it can be very, very stressful and very frustrating. And you might think, oh, you're going to get compensation, or they'll just put you on the next flight. Or sometimes you have to line things up, but often because you are connecting, you're connecting with 2 different airlines. It's not a through booking, so it doesn't quite work. And then seasonality, of course, and you can still get very good value flights to Madeira if you're lucky. However, because it is becoming so popular and you are restricted by the size of the airport, flight prices can get very expensive, and you can't just run away last minute and jump on a flight somewhere to go and film a little video or have a weekend away. You can't just do that. You need to plan in advance. And I know, I'm trying to think about the comments that you're saying. These are compromises that you have to make when you live in a place like this. But at the end of the day, this is my lifestyle and this is my work, and it's all intertwined. I don't have a separate life and separate work like a lot of people. So it needs to make sense. And I think I've come to the conclusion that Madeira as a travel base just isn't making sense for me. It might work for you guys. It might work for the way you guys travel or the way you guys want to travel. But for me and my YouTube channel, it's just not working. The other issue, which is tied into that, and I think a lot of people have this, it's not just me, it's definitely a well-known or at least recognized thing, is that island fever definitely exists. And it certainly exists for me. After a few months on the island, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4, I 100% feel like I need to get away for a period of time to fall back in love with the island again. And then when you have the difficulties that I just explained with it being a travel base, this is a problem. But also just that feeling coming again and again. It seems to be, this year at least, the time it takes for that is shorter and shorter, and I guess that's the issue. Now, unfortunately, that's coincided with the fact that I had the health scare. I've taken it a bit easier this year, or at least since then, although that's debatable considering I've hiked across the island and I'll be traveling a little bit too. However, it is a bit of a problem. And I probably will get that everywhere. If I move to Spain, I would probably have it. If I move to Japan, I would probably have it. And again, that's me shooting myself in the foot again. I need to travel frequently and a lot, I guess, compared to other people to keep my mind active and keep my mind interested. I need to travel for the YouTube channel. And the other problem is, when you're in Madeira and you see how busy it is and you meet all these people who recognize you because they watch the videos, it feels like not the center of the world. I don't want to say that because I don't become tunnel visioned or narrow-minded being on this island. However, you do think that it is way more popular than it actually is, especially from a YouTube perspective, because the reality is it's a small niche. And actually this year views have been very hard to come by, or consistent views have been hard to come by. You have to work really hard to get them. And that's a problem because less views, less money, more stress. So I feel like I need to expand, and that's why I travel and I add travel to it. But you guys, it's hard to get you guys to watch anything beyond Madeira. And I keep saying, please watch beyond Madeira. If you find the Madeira videos useful, if you find them interesting, if you like watching me, if you want to help me out, watch them. You're going to enjoy them from an entertainment perspective. If they're very different. The ones in Madeira are about you making the most of your time in Madeira, when I travel, it's more about you sitting down and enjoying the travel. So they are different. But that is definitely something that's been on my mind, the size and the scope of what you can do with the channel here. So I really don't want to go back to corporate life for as long as I can. The final little negative, or the thing that's on my mind, is Madeira is changing, and it's changing fast. It's changed a lot since I first came here 7 or 8 years ago. It's changed a dramatic amount. It's changed a lot since I moved here permanently in the last 2 years. Now, a lot of that is for the better, but not everything is for the better, I would say. It's incredibly overcrowded now, and that doesn't really matter on the season, because when the flight season ends, the cruise ship season starts. There are just people everywhere. It's very hard to find quiet places, although I have found quiet places for these videos, but they're not places that you would go and explore, if you see what I mean. They're not sites, they're not major, well, not major trails, but they're not major hiking trails. All of these things are very well trodden now, let's say, and tourism is booming, and that's fantastic, but not everything is good on the back of that. Now, I'm not going to go into it too much because that's a whole video in itself, and I don't want it to become just a rant video. However, there are things that go with that, like costs are rising, and costs are rising fast, whether that's eating out or accommodation or whatever it is. Costs are rising, and you definitely do feel that. And look, that's reality. I'm not complaining about that, but there are definitely consequences to having this many people on the island, or hiking trails are not looked after quite as they should be, or all sorts of things that we can get into. So it just becomes a bit frustrating living on the island sometimes. And it's exacerbated because it is an island. Because look, you guys will tell me whether I go to Barcelona or Paris or London or Lisbon, everywhere's busy, costs are rising everywhere. It's all impacted by over-tourism, and it is. But it really is felt on an island. And the island that used to feel like a little bit of a getaway and a little bit of a detachment from the rest of the world is definitely now feeling like a major part of the rest of the world in that sense. So yeah, anyway, that's a lot of negativity, I would say, but that's definitely where my mind is at. But despite that, it's not an easy decision. It's a really hard decision, and I should tell you just a few things of why it's so hard, and then we'll get on to the destinations where I'm thinking instead. There are reasons why this is a difficult decision. I know it might be hard to believe that, but it is true. And the biggest one is simply the fact that I love Madeira. I think that's pretty obvious from my videos. I think you can see my passion for it, and you can see my deep love for it. That's why I came back here over 2.5 years ago when I was choosing somewhere to live. It was because I love the island and I was called to it. It genuinely feels like my home, and that's amazing considering I had no ties here up until 8 years ago. I never even knew it existed, to be honest, up until 8 years ago. And now it feels like my home. These are amazing things, and of course I have friends here, I have a community here, and with the YouTube channel I built a community here. I have genuine reasons to stay here, and if I ended up posting the video, you would have seen it. My ex-girlfriend's daughter, she is probably the biggest reason which makes me doubt things about do I want to move, because having contact with her and doing things with her, like the scuba diving that you may have seen if I released that video, those things are amazing, being able to still be part of her life. Look, I was stepfather for many years for her, and we have a very good bond and a very good connection. And those are important things. All of these things are very important when it comes to living somewhere and choosing your base, choosing your home. It makes it incredibly difficult. I love just being able to come out into the mountains. It took me 15 minutes to get here, and look at it. Look at the spots I found today, spots I hadn't been to before, and yeah, just walking through the forest and finding little interesting places to put the camera down and film. But I love that. There are not many places where you can have those things. So for all of the negatives and all of the frustrations in my head that I said, there are big, big reasons and more, and all of those things, like it's easy for family to visit if they want to. They don't visit that much, but if they wanted to, it's easy for them to visit. It's on the UK time zone. If I want to go back to corporate life, it's much easier to do that and work remotely from here. The community of remote workers. There are so many things. There's a long list why Madeira is a good place to be and why it's a good place to be for me. But I can't ignore the other things. So when I was thinking of where would I go, I came up with 3 or 4 places, and I want you to tell me what you think of them. Now, I don't know what kind of omen this is, but the weather has changed and the cloud has rolled in just as I'm about to tell you the destinations that I'm thinking about leaving Madeira for. So yeah, we'll pretend that didn't happen. However, I think some of you might be able to guess most of them, if not all of them. The curveball, the weird one I was thinking about, was if I really wanted to focus on the brands and the campaigns and the press trips, London would be a really good base, to go back to London and base myself there. I thought about that for about 5 seconds and it seemed like a really good idea. I went to a press conference in London about a month and a half ago, and I was with the content creators there and having a great time and a laugh, and I realized how important it is, or remembered how important it is, to have the right people around you. Now, London would be amazing for that, but I can't live in London again. I'm definitely not going back there. So we're scratching that one off the list. And then I'm left with the obvious ones. Bangkok, Thailand. Of course, I love Thailand. Obvious on the channel, if you've seen my channel previously or this channel, love Thailand. I have a great network of people there as well. Some genuinely best friends live in Bangkok. Paddy, who I walked across the island with, lives in Bangkok, for example. Gary, the roaming cook. There are a whole list of people. It's also a great transport hub, and that's what I'm trying to think of. Very cheaply and last minute, you have access to all of Asia. And then obviously coming back to Europe is where it becomes a bit more long haul and a bit more of a pain, let's say. The other place, similar to this, in terms of, well, the other things I didn't say is great street food, plenty to do, you know, the things I think about. Ticks all of those boxes, but so does the next place, which would be Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. I prefer Thailand, but I could definitely see myself living in Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon, however you wish to call it. Could definitely see that happening. The other one would be Seoul in South Korea. Really cool city. Again, easy, good transport hub, great food, great culture, lots to film. It's a bit more expensive. The hard thing would be the visas, because obviously I have an Italian passport. I can live here very easily. Over there, visas become a bit more of an issue, but again, it's compromise. It's you win some, you lose some. To be honest, that's probably it. It is probably a decision, again, like it was when I decided Madeira last time. It is a decision between Madeira, Seoul, Ho Chi Minh City, and Bangkok. But it's a very, very hard decision, and one I have been genuinely contemplating for months and months and months. One day I decide, the other day I don't decide. I mean, the simple decision is stay in Madeira or leave Madeira. But that's the hardest one. Where to go? If I go to Thailand and I don't like it and I can easily go to Vietnam or Seoul, that's not a problem. But the leave Madeira or stay in Madeira is the hard one. And it changes hour to hour, day to day. What would you guys do? What do you guys recommend? I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know your thoughts if you've made it this far, because I would be interested to hear, and always having a perspective is useful. I know it would be a shame. Well, I think it would be a shame. For me, it would be a shame. But it doesn't mean I can't come back here, right? I can come back and visit. I definitely have a reason to visit, as I said previously. There are things here, people here who I would still like to see in the future. So I would definitely be back. You tell me, guys, you tell me. But I have a decision to make. Although strangely enough, this is the last video from Madeira, just for a little bit. I have a press trip to Guernsey, via London, and then on to Guernsey, the island I was born on, strangely enough. So I have that, and then I have to be away from the island for about a month. So there may be a couple of videos from somewhere else. And then I'll come back to Madeira, we'll film more content in Madeira, and I'll let you guys know my decision. So please watch the Guernsey content and the content beyond. I would really appreciate that, it would really help me out. Leave your comments below, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.